Chosen one, listen to me carefully. I have an urgent and important message to share today, and this message is not for everyone. This is only for those who truly walk the divine path of God. If you are not serious about your faith, if you are only curious but not committed, this message is not for you. You can leave now without guilt. But if you are still here, it is because God Himself allowed this message to reach you, and it has reached you at the exact moment you needed it. Not early, not late, right on time. This message will not entertain you. It will align you. It will not flatter your ego. It will awaken your spirit. Today, I am speaking directly to you because the 144,000 are waiting, and you are not just one of them. You are called to lead. This calling is heavier than you think, but it is also holier than you realize. Something is shifting in the spiritual realm, and you can already feel it in your heart. By the time you reach the end of this message, many questions you have carried silently will finally make sense. Stay with me. Before we continue, chosen ones, give a like to this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, turn on the bell icon, share this message with other chosen ones, and comment 444 in the comments to declare that you are ready to step into God's divine leadership calling.
Who the 144,000 truly are, beyond misunderstanding. Chosen one, let me slow this down for you because this is where many misunderstand, rush, or let fear and ego distort truth. When people hear the number 144,000, their minds immediately go to mystery, hierarchy, or spiritual competition. But that is not how God operates. God does not choose based on excitement. He chooses based on endurance. He does not select based on loud faith. He selects based on quiet obedience. The 144,000 are not a crowd seeking attention. They are not a spiritual elite walking around announcing who they are. In fact, many of them spent years wishing they were not chosen at all. Because the truth is this: being chosen is not glamorous. It is weighty. It carries responsibility, discipline, and deep inner refinement. The 144,000 are those who allowed God to deal with their heart when no one was watching. They are those who were willing to be corrected, humbled, stripped, and rebuilt. You see, God does not mark people outwardly first. He marks the spirit. The seal is not visible to the world, but it is undeniable in the spirit realm. That is why chosen ones often feel different, even when they try to blend in. They carry a seriousness in their spirit, a sensitivity to truth, a discomfort with lies, manipulation, and shallow living. This is not because they are better. It is because they are assigned. Now listen carefully. The 144,000 are not perfect. If perfection were the requirement, no one would qualify. What sets them apart is alignment. Their hearts bend toward God even when their emotions resist. They choose obedience even when it costs them relationships, comfort, or approval. They are not sinless, but they are sincere. They are not flawless, but they are faithful in repentance and growth. Many of you watching have spent years confused about why you could not fully belong to certain systems, churches, or groups. You tried to fit in, but something always felt off. That discomfort was not rebellion. It was discernment. God was training you to hear Him above voices, traditions, and opinions. The 144,000 must be able to stand alone if necessary, because leadership often begins in isolation. Let me also remove another dangerous misunderstanding. The 144,000 are not chosen to dominate, control, or judge others. They are chosen to serve, guide, protect, and intercede. Their authority does not come from titles or platforms. It comes from intimacy with God. That is why many chosen ones went through seasons where God removed distractions, relationships, and even ambitions. Not to punish them, but to tune their spiritual hearing. You must understand this clearly. God does not rush spiritual leadership. Anyone can speak loudly. Anyone can quote scripture. But not everyone can carry God's heart. The 144,000 are those who learned compassion through suffering, patience through delay, and wisdom through silence. They know what it feels like to be misunderstood, overlooked, and rejected. That experience is not accidental. It prepares them to lead without cruelty and correct without pride. There is also a purity associated with the 144,000 that many confuse. This is not only physical purity, it is purity of intention, purity of motive, purity of loyalty. They are not double-minded. They do not serve God when it is convenient and abandon Him when it is costly. Their yes is steady, their no is firm. God can trust them not because they are strong, but because they are surrendered. Some of you have struggled with the idea of being part of the 144,000 because you see your flaws too clearly. Let me free you from that burden. God already knows your weaknesses. He chose you with full awareness of your past, your fears, and your limitations. What qualified you was not your record, but your response. When God corrected you, you listened. When He disciplined you, you did not run. When He asked you to let go, you obeyed even while grieving. The 144,000 are also unified in spirit, even if they never meet physically. They recognize truth when they hear it. They feel disturbance when deception rises. They are spiritually alert. That is why many of you sense shifts before they happen. You feel heavy without knowing why. You feel urgency without clear explanation. This is not anxiety. This is spiritual awareness developing. Let me also say this with clarity and calm authority. Not everyone who claims to be chosen is part of the 144,000. And not everyone who is part of the 144,000 is aware of it yet. God reveals identity in stages. First, He forms character. Then He reveals calling. If calling comes before character, pride destroys the vessel. That is why God kept many of you hidden, delayed, and uncomfortable. He was protecting your assignment. The 144,000 are those who learn to submit their ego, their desires, and their timeline to God. They stopped asking, "Why me?" and started asking, "What now, Lord?" That shift is maturity, and maturity is what leadership requires. These are people God can trust in crisis. People who will not panic when pressure rises. People who will not compromise truth for applause. Chosen one, if this resonates deeply, it is not coincidence. It is recognition. You are not discovering something new. You are remembering something eternal. The confusion you once felt is being replaced by clarity. The fear is being replaced by peace. And the calling that once felt overwhelming is beginning to feel familiar. This is who the 144,000 truly are. Not a mystery to fear, not a title to chase, but a responsibility to carry with humility, discipline, and unwavering faith. And as we continue, you will understand even more clearly why you were not just included among them, but prepared to lead. And let me add this, chosen one, because your spirit needs to hear it clearly. The 144,000 are not driven by fear of missing out, nor are they motivated by reward alone. They are moved by responsibility. When God speaks, something inside them responds before logic has time to argue. That is not emotion. That is recognition. Spirit responding to spirit. Many of you wondered why you could never fully rest in a shallow version of faith. Why surface-level teachings left you hungry. Why entertainment disguised as spirituality never satisfied you. That hunger was not dissatisfaction, it was preparation. God was training your discernment to recognize depth, truth, and weight. The 144,000 are not entertained by noise. They are nourished by truth. You were also taught restraint. You learned when to speak and when to remain silent, when to act and when to wait. This balance did not come naturally. It was forged through mistakes, corrections, and divine patience. God was teaching you how to carry authority without aggression and confidence without arrogance. Understand this. The world may never applaud you, but heaven recognizes you. Angels respond to alignment, not attention, and God entrusts influence to those who will not misuse it. That is why your journey looked slower, heavier, and lonelier than others. You were not delayed, you were being refined. So breathe. Let your shoulders relax. You were never behind. You were being prepared. Why you were chosen to lead, the mark on your life. Chosen one, I want you to listen to me without rushing, without doubting, without arguing with what your spirit already knows. You were not chosen to lead by accident. There has been a mark on your life long before you had language for it. Long before you understood God. Long before you even trusted yourself. That mark has been speaking quietly through every season of your life. You noticed it early, even if you could not explain it. You felt different, not superior, just different. You sensed things others ignored. You questioned what others accepted without thought. You felt deeply, and sometimes that depth felt like a burden. You were sensitive to injustice, hypocrisy, and spiritual emptiness. This was not weakness. This was awareness. God was already shaping the lens through which you would see the world. Leadership did not come to you through applause, it came through pressure. While others were being affirmed, you were being tested. While others were being comforted, you were being corrected. You walked through seasons where nothing made sense, yet something inside you refused to quit. That persistence was not stubbornness. It was calling. God was teaching you how to stand when reassurance was absent. You were chosen to lead because you know how it feels to be misunderstood. You know the pain of being judged without being known. You know what it is like to give your best and still be overlooked. That experience carved humility into your spirit. It stripped you of the desire to dominate or control. It taught you empathy. And empathy is one of the greatest tools a leader can possess. Many of you did not grow up feeling supported. Some of you carried responsibilities too early. Others learned independence out of necessity, not choice. God allowed that not because He abandoned you, but because He was training you. Leaders must be able to carry weight without collapsing. They must know how to function when support is minimal and answers are delayed. Let me speak directly to the doubt you still carry. You often ask yourself if you are really qualified. You compare your inner struggles with the outward confidence of others. You wonder if your flaws disqualify you. Hear me clearly. God does not choose leaders because they are flawless. He chooses them because they are teachable. Your willingness to be corrected, refined, and reshaped is what set you apart. There were moments when you wanted to quit. Moments when you questioned God's silence. Moments when obedience felt unrewarded. But you stayed. Even when you were tired. Even when you were confused. Even when your faith felt fragile. That consistency marked you. Leadership begins with endurance. Anyone can start. Few can remain faithful through delay. You were also chosen because you are not easily intoxicated by power. Praise does not blind you. Titles do not define you. You crave peace more than recognition. That is rare. God cannot entrust influence to those who are addicted to validation. He gives authority to those who know how to return glory back to Him without resentment. Look at your life honestly. You were never able to live recklessly for long. Conviction always found you, even when you tried to ignore it. That inner correction was not condemnation. It was guidance. God was sharpening your conscience because leaders must be able to discern quickly and clearly. You were chosen to lead because you have walked through internal battles that forced you to know yourself. You confronted your fears. You faced your shadows. You learned where you were strong and where you were fragile. That self-awareness is not common, and it is essential. Leaders who do not know themselves end up hurting others. Some of you were isolated not because you were rejected, but because God was protecting you from premature influence. He did not want your voice shaped by noise. He wanted it shaped by truth. Solitude refined your thinking. Silence strengthened your discernment. Loneliness pushed you into deeper dependence on God. You were also chosen because you carry a calming authority. When you speak truth, it settles chaos. When you walk into confusion, clarity follows. You may not notice it, but others feel safe around you. That is not personality. That is spiritual presence. God rests on those who have made room for him internally. Leadership is not about commanding crowds. It is about carrying responsibility without complaint. It is about making decisions rooted in wisdom, not impulse. God watched how you handled disappointment. He observed how you responded when things did not go your way. You did not become bitter. You became deeper. That maturity qualified you. Let me address something gently. Some of you tried to avoid leadership. You wanted a quiet life. You asked God to choose someone else. That reluctance did not disqualify you. It confirmed you. Those who crave leadership often seek power. Those who hesitate often understand the weight of responsibility. God trusts those who do not rush toward control. You were chosen because you know how to listen, not just to people, but to God. You pause. You reflect. You discern. You do not react impulsively. That patience will guide many. In a world addicted to speed, your steadiness will be healing. There is also a resilience in you that was forged through repeated disappointment. You learned how to rebuild when things fell apart. You learned how to start again without losing faith. That resilience will become a foundation for others who feel broken. Chosen one, leadership is already in you. It has been expressed in small ways long before it becomes visible in larger ones. How you care, how you speak, how you endure, how you forgive. These are not random traits. They are evidence of preparation. God did not mark you because you asked for it. He marked you because he could trust you with it. The calling to lead is not a burden meant to crush you. It is an assignment meant to mature you. And as you step into it, you will not become someone new. You will finally become who you always were. Breathe. Let the pressure lift. You are not chosen because you are perfect. You are chosen because you are aligned, and alignment is what heaven responds to. The silent waiting. Why the 144,000 are not moving yet. Chosen one, this is the part that has tested you the most. Not the battles, not the losses, not even the loneliness. The waiting, the silent, unmoving, unanswered waiting. And I want to speak to you calmly here, because many of you have quietly wondered if something is wrong, if you missed a step, if you delayed your destiny. Let me be clear with you from the beginning. The waiting is not a mistake. It is not a denial. It is not disobedience. It is design. God does not move his chosen ones in chaos. He moves them in order, and order always begins in stillness. The reason the 144,000 are not moving yet is because movement without alignment creates destruction. God is not interested in speed, he is interested in precision, and precision takes time. You see, silence is not absence. Silence is instruction without noise. Many of you expected the call to leadership to feel dramatic. You thought there would be a loud confirmation, instant clarity, immediate momentum. But God chose silence instead, because silence reveals what noise hides. It exposes impatience. It exposes insecurity. It exposes dependence on external validation. And until those things are healed, movement would be premature. The 144,000 are waiting because they are being synchronized. God does not activate individuals in isolation without considering the whole. This calling is collective, even though the preparation feels personal. Each one is being refined at a different pace, in a different environment, through different pressures. But the alignment happens simultaneously. Heaven moves like a symphony, not a solo performance. Many of you feel like you are standing still while the world rushes past you. Others are advancing, building, announcing, celebrating, and you are still waiting. That waiting is not stagnation, it is containment. God is strengthening your foundation so that when movement comes, you do not fracture under pressure. Let me address the frustration you have not spoken out loud. You have done the work. You have prayed, you have obeyed, you have changed, yet things still feel paused. Hear me carefully. God does not reward obedience with immediate results. He rewards it with trust, and trust comes before responsibility. The 144,000 are not moving yet because they are being taught restraint. Anyone can act. Few can wait. Waiting trains discernment. It teaches you to move when God moves, not when emotions push you. Leaders who move too early end up correcting damage later. God is saving you from that burden. You also need to understand this. Waiting is not inactivity. It is internal motion. While it looks quiet on the outside, deep restructuring is happening within you. Your priorities are shifting. Your desires are becoming simpler. Your tolerance for confusion is decreasing. Your discernment is sharpening. These changes are subtle, but they are essential. Many of you are being weaned off dependency. Dependency on people, dependency on systems, dependency on affirmation. God is teaching you how to stand without leaning. Because when leadership begins, others will lean on you. And if you are still dependent, the weight will overwhelm you. The 144,000 are also waiting because God is watching how you handle uncertainty. Will you panic? Will you compare? Will you compromise? Or will you trust? Waiting reveals faith in its purest form. Faith without evidence. Faith without applause. Faith without reassurance. Some of you feel like your life is on hold. Plans delayed. Opportunities stalled. Relationships stagnant. That pause is intentional. God is limiting distractions so you can hear Him clearly. When too many doors are open, discernment becomes difficult. God closes doors not to punish, but to focus. Let me say something that may surprise you. If God moved you earlier, it would cost you more than it would bless you. You would carry responsibility without rest, influence without wisdom, authority without peace. God is protecting your nervous system, your emotional health, your spiritual clarity. Waiting also reveals what still needs healing. Old wounds surface. Old fears speak louder. Old patterns try to return. This is not regression. It is exposure. God is allowing unresolved areas to rise so they can be addressed before leadership begins. Leaders cannot afford unhealed wounds. They bleed onto others. The silence you feel is not God ignoring you. It is God trusting you. Trusting that you will not walk away when He does not explain Himself. Trusting that you will not create your own movement out of impatience. Trusting that you will remain faithful even when direction feels unclear. The 144,000 are also waiting because unity requires maturity. God is aligning hearts, not just assignments. Division delays activation. Ego disrupts flow. God is cleansing pride, competition, and comparison from His chosen ones. He is teaching them to recognize each other without rivalry. Many of you are learning how to rest without guilt. That is part of the preparation. Leaders who do not know how to rest, burn out, or become harsh. God is teaching you rhythm, work and rest, action and stillness, speaking and listening. You are also learning obedience without reward. That is rare. Obedience when no one sees. Obedience when nothing changes. That kind of faith is powerful. Heaven responds to it. That is why your waiting is not wasted. It is being recorded. Let me speak to the heaviness you feel sometimes. That weight is not depression. It is responsibility forming. Your spirit senses what is coming before your mind understands it. That awareness can feel heavy, but it is also sacred. God is teaching you how to carry weight without collapsing. The 144,000 are waiting because timing matters. When God moves, resistance will rise. Opposition will increase. Pressure will intensify. God will not release you until you are emotionally regulated, spiritually grounded, and mentally steady. This is not fear-based delay. This is wisdom. Some of you are tempted to force doors open, to make things happen. to step into roles prematurely. Resist that urge. Anything you build without God's timing will require your constant effort to maintain. What God initiates, He sustains. Waiting is also teaching you to hear subtle instruction. God is training you to recognize His voice without dramatic signs. Through peace, through restraint, through inner confirmation. This sensitivity will be essential when you lead others who are confused or overwhelmed. Chosen one, the waiting will not last forever. Silence is seasonal. Stillness is temporary. But the strength you gain here will follow you into every phase of leadership. You will look back and realize that this was the most important part of your preparation. You are not late. You are not forgotten. You are not stuck. You are being aligned. Breathe again. Let your body relax. You do not need to rush God. He is not behind, and neither are you. And let me go even deeper here, because some of you are struggling not just with waiting, but with explaining the waiting to yourself. You wake up knowing you are called, yet your external life looks quiet. That inner tension can exhaust the mind. So let me bring rest to that place. God often hides His leaders in plain sight, not because they are unimportant, but because visibility before readiness creates unnecessary warfare. Right now, heaven is limiting exposure around you. Fewer people understand you. Fewer conversations feel meaningful. Even social energy feels draining. This is not antisocial behavior. This is conservation. God is preserving your strength for a season that will demand clarity, not chaos. Another reason the 144,000 are not moving yet is because God is severing unhealthy urgency. Urgency driven by fear is dangerous. It leads to rushed decisions, emotional reactions, and misplaced alliances. God wants your movement to be intentional, not reactive, so He slows you down until peace becomes your default state, not something you chase. Some of you are also being trained to trust internal confirmation over external signs. Earlier in your journey, you needed reassurance. You needed repeated confirmation. That was normal, but leaders cannot rely on constant validation. God is teaching you to move from dependence to discernment, from asking for signs to recognizing alignment. That transition feels uncomfortable, but it is necessary. You may have noticed that old desires no longer excite you. Things you once prayed for no longer feel important. This is not loss of passion. This is refinement of focus. God is narrowing your assignment so that when movement begins, you're not distracted by side missions. Narrow focus creates power. Waiting is also revealing who is truly meant to walk with you. Some people drift away naturally. Conversations fade. Connections weaken. This is not abandonment. It is alignment. God removes those who cannot sustain the pace, depth, or responsibility of where you are going. He does this quietly to avoid unnecessary pain. Trust Him in this process. Let me speak to the spiritual fatigue many of you feel. You are not tired because you are weak. You are tired because you are carrying awareness. Awareness requires energy. You see more, you sense more, you process more. That is why rest is not optional for you. It is obedience. God is teaching you to care for your body and mind because leadership requires longevity. The waiting is also teaching you how to hold space, to sit with discomfort without fixing it, to allow questions without forcing answers. This skill will become essential when you guide others who are confused, hurting, or afraid. You are learning how to be present without panic. Some of you have noticed that God no longer explains Himself the way He used to. That silence is intentional. Explanation creates comfort. Trust creates authority. God is shifting you from childlike dependence into mature partnership. He does not need you to understand everything. He needs you to stay aligned, and hear this clearly because it will bring peace. When the waiting ends, it will end suddenly. What feels slow now will move quickly then. God often prepares quietly and releases suddenly. That is His pattern. That is why patience is critical. If you quit in silence, you miss sudden activation. So do not measure your progress by visibility. Measure it by stability, by peace, by clarity, by obedience. You are becoming unshakable. And when the movement begins, you will not rush, you will not panic. You will lead calmly, firmly, and with wisdom. This waiting is not empty space, it is sacred ground, and you are standing exactly where you are supposed to be. Leadership without ego, the way God expects you to lead. Chosen one, now we step into something sacred and serious. Leadership without ego. This is where many fall away, not because they are not called, but because they misunderstand how God expects leadership to look. The world teaches leadership as dominance, visibility, control, and recognition. God teaches leadership as stewardship, restraint, responsibility, and service. And the two are not compatible. Let me say this clearly and calmly. If ego leads, God steps back. Not because he is offended, but because ego cannot carry divine authority safely. Ego seeks validation. Ego reacts emotionally. Ego needs applause. But God's leadership requires stability, humility, and discernment. That is why God spent so much time dismantling parts of you that once needed approval. He was not breaking you. He was freeing you. Leadership in God's kingdom is quiet before it is visible. It does not announce itself. It does not force agreement. It does not manipulate outcomes. It moves with peace, clarity, and conviction. When God places authority on someone, they no longer need to prove anything. Their presence carries weight without aggression. Many of you were intentionally humbled before being elevated. Situations exposed your limitations. Mistakes reminded you of your humanity. Failures stripped away pride. That was not shame. That was preparation. God was teaching you to lead from dependence on Him, not confidence in yourself. Ego-driven leadership needs to be seen. God-led leadership needs to be aligned. When you are aligned, people recognize truth without being convinced. They feel safety, not pressure. They feel clarity, not confusion. That is the kind of leadership God expects from you. Let me address something gently. Some of you fear leadership because you have seen it abused. You watched leaders manipulate, dominate, or spiritually intimidate others. That fear is understandable. But your calling is not to repeat those patterns. It is to heal them. God chose you precisely because you are aware of the damage ego causes. Leadership without ego means you listen more than you speak. It means you pause before you act. It means you correct with compassion and firmness, not anger. It means you do not rush to be right. You value truth more than victory. You value people more than position. You were trained for this through restraint. God often held you back when you wanted to speak. He silenced you when you felt justified. He asked you to wait when you wanted to act. That restraint built discipline. And discipline is the backbone of godly leadership. Another sign of ego-free leadership is emotional regulation. You do not lead from wounded reactions. You lead from healed awareness. That is why God allowed old wounds to surface and be addressed before activation. Leaders who have not faced their pain end up projecting it onto others. God protected you from that. Leadership without ego also means you do not see yourself as a savior. You are not here to rescue everyone. You are here to guide, support, and point people back to God. You carry responsibility, not ownership. That distinction keeps leaders grounded and prevents burnout. Let me speak to ambition for a moment. God is not against ambition. He is against ambition that replaces obedience. Holy ambition desires alignment over advancement. It asks, is this God's timing? Not, is this opportunity impressive? You have learned to ask the right questions, and that is why you were trusted. You will notice that true authority does not need volume. It does not need repetition. It does not need force. When you speak from alignment, one sentence can bring peace. One decision can restore order. That is not personality, that is presence. Leadership without ego also knows when to step back, when to delegate, when to let others grow. You are not threatened by the growth of others. You celebrate it. Ego competes. God-led leadership cultivates. That mindset is rare, and it is powerful. Some of you will be tempted to measure your leadership by impact, numbers, or recognition. Resist that temptation. God measures leadership by faithfulness, integrity, and endurance. Many of the most influential leaders in Scripture were misunderstood, resisted, and opposed. Yet they remained obedient. That obedience changed history. You were also taught silence, not because you lacked wisdom, but because wisdom matures in quiet. God taught you not to respond to every challenge, not to defend yourself against every accusation. That self-control is strength. It keeps leadership clean. Leadership without ego is deeply rooted in self-awareness. You know your limits. You know when to rest. You know when to ask for help. Pride hides weakness. Wisdom acknowledges it. God trusts leaders who are honest with themselves. Let me remind you of something important. Authority in God's kingdom flows from submission. The more you submit to God, the more authority you carry. This is why your prayer life deepened, why obedience became non-negotiable, why compromise no longer felt comfortable. You were being aligned to carry authority safely. Some of you fear that humility will make you weak. That is not true. Humility makes you unshakable. When ego is absent, criticism does not destroy you. Praise does not intoxicate you. You remain steady. That steadiness is leadership. You will also notice that people may resist you not because you are wrong, but because ego resists truth. Do not internalize that resistance. Do not harden your heart. Stay grounded. God will handle what you cannot. Leadership without ego is not passive. It is decisive. It makes hard choices with peace. It holds boundaries with love. It speaks truth without cruelty. This balance is not learned overnight. It is cultivated through years of refinement, years you have already lived. Chosen one, God does not need you to be impressive. He needs you to be faithful. He does not need you to be perfect. He needs you to be aligned. Ego would have disqualified you long ago, but humility kept you teachable, and teachability is what qualifies leaders in God's kingdom. So release the pressure to perform, release the need to prove, release the fear of being misunderstood. Lead as you were taught, calm, clear, grounded, and God will do the rest. The cost of saying yes. What will change in your life? Chosen one, now we speak honestly, calmly, and without fear. Every divine calling carries a cost, not because God is cruel, but because transformation always requires exchange. When you say yes to leadership, something in your life must change. Not everything, not all at once, but something. And understanding this ahead of time will save you confusion, disappointment, and unnecessary resistance. The first thing that changes is your inner life. Your tolerance for noise, chaos, and shallow connection decreases. Conversations that once felt normal may now feel draining. Environments that once felt exciting may now feel heavy. This is not judgment. It is discernment developing. God is sharpening your awareness so you can protect your peace. Leadership requires clarity, and clarity requires boundaries. You will also notice changes in relationships. Some will deepen, others will quietly fade. Not because anyone is wrong, but because alignment shifts. People who are comfortable with surface-level living may struggle to connect with your depth. This separation can feel painful, but it is often gentle and necessary. God removes relationships that cannot sustain the responsibility you are stepping into. Another cost is misunderstanding. When you lead with integrity, not everyone will agree with you. Some will project their expectations onto you. Others will resist your boundaries. This is not failure. This is leadership. You must learn to be okay with being misunderstood without becoming defensive or withdrawn. You will also lose the luxury of impulsive living. Leadership requires intentionality. You will think before you speak. Pause before you react. Discern before you decide. This is not restriction. It is discipline. And discipline protects you from regret. There will be moments when obedience costs you comfort. God may ask you to stay silent when you want to speak, to wait when you want to move, to let go when you want to hold on. These moments are refining, not punishing. They strengthen your ability to trust God over your emotions. Some of you will experience loneliness at a deeper level. Leadership can be isolating, not because you are alone, but because responsibility creates distance. You will carry things others do not see. You will make decisions others do not understand. This loneliness is not abandonment. It is separation for clarity. Your emotional life will also mature. You will become more aware of your triggers, more responsible for your reactions, less willing to blame others for how you feel. This self-responsibility is not heaviness, it is freedom. Leaders who understand their emotions lead with wisdom, not reaction. Another cost is that you will no longer be able to ignore conviction. God's correction will become clearer and quicker. This is not harshness, it is closeness. The closer you walk with God, the more sensitive you become to alignment. This sensitivity keeps your leadership clean. You may also find that success feels different. Recognition may come, but it will not satisfy the way peace does. You will measure progress differently. By obedience, by stability, by impact, not applause. This shift can feel strange at first, but it brings deep fulfillment. Let me address fear directly. Some of you fear that saying yes means losing yourself. That is not true. You will not lose yourself. You will lose versions of yourself that no longer serve your calling. What remains will be clearer, stronger, and more authentic. You will also be asked to rest intentionally. Leadership without rest leads to burnout. God will not allow you to overextend the way you once did. He will interrupt you, slow you down, call you back to stillness. This is not delay, it is sustainability. Your spiritual life will deepen. Prayer will become less about asking and more about listening. Faith will become less emotional and more grounded. You will trust God even when feelings fluctuate. This stability will anchor others. There will be moments when you grieve what you are leaving behind. Simpler seasons, easier connections, less responsibility. Grief does not mean you made the wrong choice. It means you are human. God does not rush grief. He walks with you through it. You will also gain discernment about where to invest your energy. Not every request deserves a yes. Not every need is yours to meet. Leadership requires focus. God will teach you how to say no without guilt and yes without resentment. The cost of saying yes also includes accountability. You will be held to a higher standard, not by others, but by your own conscience. Integrity will matter deeply to you. Compromise will feel heavier. This is not pressure, it is alignment. Let me reassure you, God never takes without giving. What you release, He replaces with peace, clarity, and purpose. What you lose in comfort, you gain in meaning. What you sacrifice in familiarity, you receive in fulfillment. Chosen one, the cost is real, but so is the grace. You will not pay it alone. God walks with those He calls, and every change you experience will serve not only your leadership, but your healing. So do not fear the cost. Honor it, understand it, and step forward knowing that nothing essential will be taken from you. Only what no longer fits who you are becoming. And let me add this because some of you need reassurance at a deeper level. Saying yes to God does not mean your life becomes harder in the way your mind fears. It becomes simpler, even if it feels unfamiliar at first. Complexity fades. Confusion decreases. You may carry more responsibility, but you carry less inner conflict. That trade alone is worth it. You will notice that God begins to protect your energy more intentionally. Situations that once drained you will no longer have access. You will feel an inner resistance to overgiving, over-explaining, and overextending. This is not selfishness, it is stewardship. Leaders who give without boundaries eventually give from resentment. God is teaching you to give from overflow, not depletion. Another cost, and also a gift, is clarity about who truly walks with you. When your life aligns with purpose, surface-level connections naturally fall away. This can feel like loss, but it is actually relief. You will no longer feel obligated to maintain relationships that require you to shrink, perform, or betray your values. God is making room for connections that respect your calling. Some of you will also feel a shift in how you experience time. You will become more present, less rushed, less anxious about outcomes. Leadership requires awareness of the moment, not obsession with the future. God will slow your inner pace so you can respond wisely instead of reacting emotionally. Let me speak to your fear of making mistakes. Yes, you will still make them. Leadership does not eliminate humanity, but you will recover faster, learn quicker, repent sooner. Growth will become intentional, not accidental. God corrects leaders because He cares, not because He condemns. And hear this clearly. Saying yes does not mean constant sacrifice. There will be seasons of joy, laughter, rest, and deep satisfaction. God is not building a life of burden for you. He is building a life of meaning, and meaning sustains you in ways comfort never could. So if your heart feels both nervous and peaceful, that is confirmation. Fear alone is not from God. Peace alone is not enough. But when peace exists alongside reverent awareness, you are standing at the door of alignment. You are not losing your life. You are gaining direction, and direction brings rest. This is your confirmation. The time is now. Chosen one, I want you to settle into this moment. Breathe slowly. Let your shoulders drop. Because what I'm about to say is not speculation, and it is not encouragement alone. This is confirmation. Not confirmation born out of emotion, but confirmation rooted in alignment. The time you have been sensing is not approaching. It is here, quietly, firmly, without drama. And if you are listening to this, it means you are ready to hear it. For a long time, you have lived between knowing and waiting, between preparation and release, between restraint and readiness. That tension was intentional. God was building stability inside you so that when the moment came, you would not rush, panic, or doubt yourself. And now, something has shifted. You may not see it outwardly yet, but internally, you feel more grounded than ever before. That grounding is the signal. This is not the kind of confirmation that pushes you into sudden action. God is not asking you to do more. He is asking you to stand differently, to think differently, to speak differently. Leadership begins internally before it ever becomes visible. The way you carry yourself now matters. The way you respond matters. The way you choose peace over reaction matters. The time is now because you no longer need constant reassurance. You no longer need signs stacked on signs. You recognize alignment when you feel it. You recognize peace when it settles. You recognize conviction without fear. This maturity did not arrive overnight. It was formed slowly, through obedience, disappointment, and refinement. Let me be very clear. Activation does not mean exposure. Movement does not mean noise. God often begins leadership in subtle shifts. You will notice that people begin to listen to you differently. Conversations carry more weight. Your words settle instead of bounce. You are not trying harder, you are simply aligned. That is authority. Some of you expected a dramatic moment, a sudden announcement, a visible door opening. But God is activating you through consistency, through small, faithful steps, through calm decisions, through integrity when no one is watching. Do not despise this beginning. This is how sustainable leadership is built. The time is now because fear no longer controls you. It still exists, but it no longer leads. You act with peace even when uncertainty remains. That is not confidence in yourself. That is trust in God. Leaders who wait for fear to disappear never move. Leaders who move with peace despite fear are aligned. You may feel a gentle urgency, not anxiety. a sense of responsibility, not pressure. That is the difference between divine timing and human impatience. Divine timing feels steady. It feels grounded. It feels clear even when details are incomplete. Let me speak to those of you who feel like nothing has changed externally. Do not measure activation by visibility. Measure it by stability. You are more regulated, more discerning, less reactive. That is not small. That is readiness. God is also confirming you by the peace you feel when you stop striving. You no longer feel the need to chase purpose. Purpose feels present, accessible, near. That peace is confirmation. You are not being asked to leap. You are being asked to step. One aligned decision at a time. One obedient response at a time. Leadership grows through consistency, not intensity. Some of you will notice resistance increase subtly, not attacks, but tests. Opportunities to compromise, invitations to rush, moments that test your boundaries. These are not obstacles, they are confirmations. God is watching how you steward alignment. The time is now because you have learned to listen, not just to God, but to yourself. You recognize when something is off. You recognize when something is right. That discernment will guide you more than any external instruction. Let me reassure you of something important. You are not stepping into this alone. Others are being activated quietly alongside you. The 144,000 are not waiting anymore. They are aligning. And alignment creates movement. You do not need to announce yourself. You do not need to prove your calling. Those who are meant to recognize you will. Those who are not will fall away. That is not loss. That is clarity. You are also being confirmed by the fact that your motivation has changed. You are not driven by excitement. You are driven by responsibility. You care less about being seen and more about being faithful. That shift is significant. Some of you feel both calm and alert. That is exactly where you should be. Calm enough to rest, alert enough to respond. This balance is leadership. Let me speak directly to any lingering doubt. Doubt does not disqualify you. It keeps you humble. As long as doubt does not paralyze obedience, it is part of discernment. God is not looking for blind confidence. He is looking for steady trust. The time is now because you have stopped asking, "Am I ready?" and started asking, "How can I stay aligned?" That question marks maturity. You will make decisions now with a deeper sense of responsibility. You will speak with intention. You will move with peace. These are not dramatic changes, but they are powerful. Chosen one, this is your confirmation. Not because you feel special, but because you are aligned. Not because you are flawless, but because you are faithful. The season of preparation has done its work. Do not rush. Do not hesitate. Simply remain aligned. God will open doors at the right pace, and when they open, you will walk through them without fear. The time is now, and you are ready. Conclusion. Step forward in peace and authority. Chosen one, as we come to the end of this message, I want you to rest in this truth. You were never forgotten. You were never delayed. You were never overlooked. Every season you walked through had purpose. Every moment of waiting carried intention. And every part of you that was refined was done so with care. You are not stepping forward in confusion. You are stepping forward in peace. Not a fragile peace that disappears under pressure, but a grounded peace that holds you steady. This is the kind of peace that leadership requires. Calm, clear, and anchored in God. Remember this. You are not called to force outcomes. You are called to remain aligned. When you stay aligned, movement happens naturally. Doors open without strain. Influence grows without manipulation. Authority flows without ego. Trust God with the timing. Trust yourself with obedience. You do not need to become someone else to lead. You lead as you are, with humility, with discernment, with compassion and strength working together. The leadership God has entrusted to you is not meant to burden you. It is meant to mature you and bring clarity to others. If doubt tries to return, meet it with stillness. If fear whispers, respond with peace. You have already been prepared for this season. You do not need to rush ahead or look back. Stay present, stay grounded, stay faithful. Before you go, chosen ones, give a like to this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, turn on the bell icon, and share this message with other chosen ones who are ready to step into their calling. And comment 444 in the comments as a declaration that you are aligned, ready, and willing to lead with peace and authority. Walk forward calmly. God is with you.